Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Deep Dive. Today we're talking about one of my favorite shows, Lost. And with me is a really good friend of mine from the Northern Entertainment Group, Dave. How you doing today, Dave?
Ben, when I decided to come on this show, you asked me, what do you want to talk about? And I just said, Lost.
Yeah.
Because this show is amazing and I can't wait to talk about it with you. One of my favorite people to get lost with.
Right back at you, my man, right back at you. So, how did you get into the show?
So I got into Lost via my older sister when I was 13 years old. She had been watching Lost. So when I was 13, I'm going to be dating myself. It was in between season 5 and season 6 coming out. And she said she was back from college. She was back from university. And she said, I need someone to watch the finale with because dad won't let me watch it on this TV if I don't have someone else. And I said, okay, I'm your man. I got this. And she handed me the first 3 seasons on DVD. And then LimeWire was still a thing back then. So I watched season 4 and 5 on LimeWire. But I think I finished all of season 1 in a long weekend because I was just hooked right away. And then I caught up eventually because I didn't catch up for the start of season 6. I caught up during the Richard flashback episode. That was the first episode I ever watched live. So right in that final span of like 5 episodes or whatever it is, that was where I finally caught up and started watching Lost live. And since then, I think I've probably, when me and my wife just went through Lost, I think this was my 7th watch on Lost. So I'm a pretty big Lost guy. What about you?
Hard to believe, I'm almost in the same way. I didn't watch until season 5. And even then, between 5 and 6, I watched nothing. And then, like, the week before season 6, thanks to LimeWire, I binged everything. I was hooked, and for that LAX episode, I was watching live.
Yeah, that was such an interest. I wish I could have been a part of. I was kind of young and stuff, so I wouldn't have probably been that involved in the Lost chatter online. But going back and like listening to people talk about it and reading about like how much Lost really spawned the birth of not only like podcasting with everyone having a Lost podcast back in the day, but just like the internet forums and the internet theorizing uh, way back in the early 2000s when the idea of that was still relatively new. Like this was before Game of Thrones, this was before everything. And I wish I could have been able to just experience that in some way. But even though, 7 months to watch all of Lost to get caught up, not a bad way to do it.
I mean, I think Lost was really Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
In him, and okay. Continuing to address the series finale of Lost is my all-time favorite series finale. Nothing else has come close to it. But I remember when that thing came out. It was, like I was saying, it was Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Everyone was so pissed about how it ended.
Yeah. I was never in that camp. I always liked the ending of Lost. My sister, who I watched it with, hated it because it was not. She liked it all the way up until the last like 5 seconds where they panned back to the beach and the plane starts to dissolve. So she's like, what are they trying to tell us here? They weren't dead the whole time. I know that, but now you're telling me they were dead the whole time. Lost? And it's like, you're so right though about that, because it wasn't only Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones in that amazing revered finale, series, and then everyone hates the last season and everyone hates the finale. But it was also doing like long reaching character arcs that, like, Sawyer's arc doesn't even like really start until halfway through season 2, or halfway through season 3, when Jack and everyone's been kidnapped and he has to be the leader. And then, but it was also doing like shocking character deaths, like Boone, who you assume is going to be like a main staple of the show because he's the young hot guy there, is like, he's killed off in something like episode 14 of the show.
Yep.
And it's like that was, and then they continue to provide solid, shocking moments like that throughout the entire series.
One of the more shocking moments for me was in the season 1 finale. It was on tech. Remember Arts, the teacher?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm as mad at my head that makes me laugh every time I see it.
It's not even that. It's not the moment of Arch gestating like a teacher so the dynamite blows up, because that's always what I think. I picture like him with chalk in his hand instead of the dynamite. I'm like, that's exactly how my science teacher would have talked. And going back and like listening to interviews with like Damon Lindelof and stuff, they're like, yeah, we based this on a high school science teacher of mine who I hated. But it's not even that moment where he blows up that gets me. It's, I know the next thing out of Hurley's mouth is going to be, you got a little arst on you. And that line cracks me up every time. And it cracks me up just knowing, oh, it's coming. And I start to giggle to myself. And then when Hurley finally lets it out, I'm like, woo! We're here for it right now, boys.
Well, and I think it's safe to say, if you need anybody on that show to make you feel better, it's Shirley. He always knows that the right exact thing to make anybody feel good.
Yeah, and not only that, but like with the entire breadth of the show being seen, and how eventually, I don't know, this is full spoilers, right? Yeah. Okay. Like eventually Hurley becoming like the protector of the island, the new Jacob and stuff, really going back and watching those early seasons with the perspective of Hurley as the protagonist of this show instead of Jack, you really see, and they've said, you know, we did not plan it all out. We did not have everything planned out, but they had so many good seeds along the way that they were able to pick up on and thread all the way throughout, that Hurley has this amazing growth arc. Even in season 2, when he has that, when he's really going through his eating disorder and his imaginary friend with Dave and his relationship with Libby, and he breaks down and be like, yeah, good time, fun time, Hurley. No one ever cares what I want to do, but I am. And he just has this terrible thing where it's like, yeah, I'm a victim, or not a victim of this. I've definitely done this where I have a friend in my group who is the like comic relief, and it's like, you never think that person's hurting, and the fact that they were able to tackle that with Hurley just shows how smart and well written these characters and these episodes were.
Well, I think the key thing about the show, and for me anyway, I think that gets to me every time I watch the show, is the characters.
Yeah.
For me, I love every single character. I mean, whether it's Jack, whether it's Kate, whether it's Locke, whether it's Jacob, whether it's Sawyer.
Well, I cannot co-sign that I love Jacob. Like, that guy sucks.
When I hate love, I mean like love you like get annoyed by. Like,
yeah.
And I don't know why I put him in there, but
Why? It's like you had so many. You didn't even say Saeed or Desmond or Charlie. Could could you like you're saying the characters? And I totally agree with you. What are like? Do you have like a Mount Rushmore of characters for you? Because I'm curious. Because I don't. Because there's so many characters in this ensemble that I'd be curious to see where we're at and if we have anyone the same.
okay, I've lost characters. My Mount. I'll give you my top 5. Jack, Desmond, Ben, Locke, and Sawyer.
See, I've got. If I'm also doing top 5, then that cleared some room up. So I've got. I love Desmond. He is my number one. That guy, awesome. Saeed. Then I got Saeed. That guy has one of the. He's the true romantic, and you forget because you always remember the like torture stuff. He is hilarious in those early episodes. There's a we'll get into it in a minute. I'm sure we'll break down. Ben, I also love. Juliet for me is one of my favorite characters, and then also it's tough. It's tough there between Sawyer and. No, you know what? He's not on the show a lot, but I'll give my number 5 to Mr. Echo. I love Mr. Echo. I love AAA. You know, unfortunately, everything that went with him wanting to leave the show and blah, blah, blah. But, like, you know, he was so great for the season and a half we got him.
Yeah. And it's funny because one of our top 5 of great characters. Neither of us is Charlie, and he's right up there with everyone else.
Yeah. Charlie's one. Sorry.
I really think about the same. Not Penny Sport haunts me every time.
Oh, yeah. That's one of those moments where you finally think that these characters are getting a win. And you're like, oh, man, and Charlie's sacrificing himself, but he's doing it for them, and Penny's going to come save them. And then when you see that hand, you're like, oh, shit, it's not over. It's not over. They still got him? They can't still got him. And then that episode ends with like the famous we have to go back, revealing it's a flash forward. And it's like just completely shifts the entire paradigm of what you think the show is, because it's been pretty standard up until, not standard, but like you've gotten into a good rhythm with the show, and now it's all reversed again.
Right. And another great character, we don't get him long. He's a great villain, Ethan. How great is the Ethan character?
Ethan's great. I learned recently he's Tom Cruise's cousin, which I think is hilarious. But he's got that great line where, "Bring her to me. If you don't, I will kill someone every day. And Charlie, I'll kill you last." And it's like, boom. And then they kill Scott, not Steve.
Yeah.
Which is a great running joke for as long as they keep it up. But Ethan's so good as a villain, and I think it gets a little played out when he keeps coming back and he keeps coming back and he keeps coming back. But I do like him. My wife hates him. Every time Ethan showed back up, she's like, "We killed this guy. Why is he here still?"
Yeah, he does return a lot, but I have to say, my favorite return of his is actually in season 6, in the Flash Sideways.
Oh,
when we get to see him as like a good duck. I don't know why I didn't a good duck, dude.
Yeah, I think my favorite Ethan moment is probably it's actually probably an off-island thing as well. I think the little bit that we get with him in Not in Portland,
Yeah.
the Juliet flashback, I think is really good because I've always imagined that, like, and we see this a little bit in like some of the Ben flashbacks. Ethan's a little crazy. This man, he is the guy who will do the things that Ben does not have the stomach for.
Right.
So when he goes off island with Richard, and then Juliet's husband just gets hit by a bus somehow, I'm like, Richard's not doing that. We slow that down. I bet Ethan's driving that bus.
Holy shit! I didn't think of that.
Because, well, like you don't think that because Richard shows up right afterwards, and then who's off island? Ethan.
Yeah.
I bet you Ethan is riding that bus because, like, Richard, a good guy, but like, so he's not going to run over a man with a bus, but he will say, "Hey, Ethan, we got to get this chick to the island to help with the birthing problem. If be a shame if her husband got hit by a bus." On it. And then Ethan, he gets on his jumpsuit and he gets into jumpsuit. Why is he wearing a jumpsuit to drive a bus? But yeah. Now, maybe it's also just my headcanoning that makes me love that bit about Ethan.
I like it though. I like it.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
I'm here.
To move on from Ethan, though, can I say what I was gonna say about why I love Saeed so much?
Yes, yes.
It's not only because obviously in 2004, huge to have one of your main stars of this show be from Iraq, of all places, still very fresh from 9/11 and everything. And not only is they didn't make him like he's Arab, but from America. Like, he worked for Saddam Hussein's regime. He was in the National Guard. And he was a torturer. He has all this dark stuff about him, and you get to. But he is also the most romantic character on Lost, where everything he does is driven by love, never hate. Until we see the hate him regress, especially after Shannon dies. When he goes back in, and he's like, "I'm a bad man." Also blew my mind when in the because I caught up. Season right before the finale, they played like an hour-long featurette with all the cast. That was when I learned he was British, and it blew my mind. But you okay?
Yeah.
But what always gets me, it's in season 1 when they find Rousseau's map. He's just come back to camp. And he's like, they're in French. Who speaks French? And it's Shannon. This is where he starts the bond with Shannon, which I know a lot of people hate. I would rather.
I didn't know that. I love them together.
Oh my god, dude, get on the internet. People hate it. People are like, why wasn't Nadia in the church? His whole arc is about Nadia, and then he ends up with Shannon at the end. Why? But there's a moment where he's like, so tell me, how did you learn how to speak French? And she starts by saying, well, there was this guy in Paris, and Saeed, he just like puts his fist in like this, and he's like, this guy. And he just like leans all the way in with the biggest eye roll. Just like little sassy Saeed is my favorite. And then when you watch all of season 1, whenever Jack, or pretty much up until he gets off the island, Saeed is like the shadow leader of Oceanic 815, where like everyone's like doing their own crazy shit, and Saeed's like, I am trying to hold us together, people.
Yeah, he's great. I love that he made Shannon a tent.
Yeah.
That got me. I love it. I can't believe people hated them. I love them together.
No, well, people mostly hated it because it was like a lot of Nadia erasure, because like his whole arc is, I got to get off the island to be with Nadia. And then he gets off the island and he marries Nadia. And then she dies and he gets all depressed and he goes to the past and he shoots Ben Linus for Nadia. And then he does all this. And then the last season is like they show up and he's with Shannon. It's like, you didn't do any of this for Shannon. You got over. Nadia, you became an agent. You became a hitman for Ben Linus over.
Yeah, I know that comes together though.
Ben. This is something I cannot stand. Shannon might be my least favorite character on the show. She's very annoying.
Really? Yeah. Okay. I'll go with you with that.
And I think I feel as though they had this archetype for the young female girl character, and then they also had this idea for a pregnant girl. And at some point, those people became the same character. And then they said, oh shit, we can't have this girl do all this other stuff because we have to have her be a mom. So then they broke them back up, but now they only have half a character. Because I love Claire, but after Aaron gets born, they do not know what to do with her. So much so that she gets the Bran Stark treatment and is just taken out of the show for season 5.
Oh, now that I think about it, they're all a lot of parallels between Lost and Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Boone's even trying to mac on both of them at one point. I remember that was his sister. What a great show we love. Great show. Oh, Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. It was doing incest.
Yep. Well, okay, not to bring down the mood, but I want to talk about Locke. I mean, there's a character. I don't want to hear that because I remember that this character suffered the most, but I don't think that's true. I'm maybe he did. What do you think? Do you think Locke suffered the most? Free Island?
He certainly had the saddest crimes committed on him. Oh man, so many people. I think that's the beautiful thing where all these characters suffered so much. Probably Locke, just because having your dad steal your kidney, and then that not being the thing that paralyzes you, but later he'll throw you out a window.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably the saddest.
Yeah.
He probably suffers the most off island and on island for that matter. Like, he goes through the ringer.
But turns out he was right about everything. In fact, even admits it at the end.
Yeah, he was right, and I think that the show is ultimately about faith, and I think it shows John and Jack as, like, obviously man of science, man of faith. We all know it. And it's the slow descent where you see both of them kind of start. Jack's here as a man of science and Locke's here. And you see them both kind of go like that and then come back together to find there is should be a happy medium. Because at the beginning, John is blind faith all the time until he gets tested. And then he has that amazing moment. I was wrong. And then the hatch blows up.
Oh, yeah.
Where Jack, he is constantly pushing against fate and saying, no, there's a way around this. I'm seeing my ghost dad, but there's a reason for it. I love that. And I love that dichotomy of the two characters. And having at the very end, like you said, Jack admit, yeah, John was right, but he's saying it to the guy wearing John Locke's face is so cool.
I know. And let me ask you, season 5 comes. There's no catching up. Did you think that was Locke back on the island, or did you think it was something else possessing him when we first didn't know what happened?
I immediately thought it was the smoke monster.
Okay.
But then the longer we left it, because they don't like reveal that until the very last episode that it definitely is the smoke monster. So you have all of season 5. Well, not all of season 5. I think it's like half of season 5 where they get back to the island, right? Or
They don't reveal it until season 6 comes out.
No, because doesn't season 5 end with they drop the coffin and Richard sees John's body and it's the pan over? Because
Yeah, but you hear, they don't expect you to say that about smoke monster.
Oh, well, yes.
You know it's not John, but you don't know who or what it is.
Yeah, I think, but at that point, like, there's something that looks like something else. And so but the fact that they stayed with it for so long, they kind of double faked me. Where, I got played like Ben Linus, where when Smokey McSmokerton's up there and Ben's like going to the temple and be like, I'm so sorry, I killed my daughter. And then Ghost Alex shows up and I'm like, well, clearly it can't be the smoke monster because Locke's up there. And the smoke monster was down here. It can't be this. They can't be it. So I also never thought they would go into resurrection territory. Because otherwise I think Jack's dad would have been, I always thought that if they were going to bring someone back from the dead, they would have brought back Jack's dad, like in the flesh, to be a villain. But
that would have been interesting.
I think there's a world where Terry O'Quinn, who plays John Locke, similar to Mr. Echo in like season 3, says, I don't want to be on the show anymore. And I think then the smoke monster becomes Christian Shepherd full time and kind of takes up that like Locke spot as like where he takes the half of the oceanic, not the oceanics, the survivors of the crash, where there's that schism between Jack and Locke's people and the camp splits.
Right.
I think that becomes Jack versus Christian instead of Jack versus Locke.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Here's some people we haven't talked about yet. Jin and Sun. What do you think of them?
So I'm dyslexic. So my first run through of Lost, the Korean episodes with Jin and Sun were my least favorite. I hated it so much. Ooh. I was like, I can't, because I was a bad reader. I'm still not a great reader, but like I was like, Saeed's speaking a different language and I understand it. Why aren't they speaking English in the flashbacks? But then my second go through on Lost, where I knew what was going to happen, so I could spend more time with the words on screen, I fell in love with Jin and Sun. And their relationship, I think quickly we jumped to Western norms with them about what's acceptable. And like, even by Eastern standards, Jin's kind of a piece of shit in those first couple seasons.
Yeah.
But like, they really blossom into a great love story. And I used to have a huge problem with the fact that Jin stayed behind and died with Sun, because I'm like, you have a daughter out there. Why are you not staying? But as I've gotten older, I'm like, Jin's not a dad. Like, he has never met this baby. His whole world is dying in the submarine with Sun. So I'm now fully fine. I don't like that they died. That was very sad. I cry every time.
Yeah, me too. I think that is a sad, I say that, but god damn it, I get misty-eyed every time Juliet died.
Oh my god, when she's, yeah. it's not even when Juliet dies. It's when she's just screaming next to the bomb, hitting it with the rock, being like, blow up, blow up. And that's the moment that I'm crying. Just in that moment of pure pain and frustration. That's tough to see.
And then what I love about the season 5, I forget the episode number, but the Fleur.
Oh, the Fleur is really good.
What they managed to do, how they managed to tell you on them as a couple who's in love in 3 years in one episode.
Yeah.
Is incredible. Because if it's not for that episode, if you didn't buy into it, the whole rest of the show wouldn't have worked, in my opinion.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, because by the time we get to LaFleur, the will they, won't they with Kate and Jack and Juliet and Sawyer and Kate and like it's been played out. And they try to play with like Kate and Sawyer are going to get back together and disrupt things for Juliet. But for the most part, they stick true to Juliet and Sawyer. And that really helps the rest of the show. And even though they're only together for such a little time, on subsequent watches, you go back to like season 3 where they first meet. And their first meeting is actually Juliet holding a gun to Kate. And then when Kate and Sawyer get tossed back in the polar bear cages, he's like, yeah, I could have taken this guy. And that guy, he doesn't know anything. But that guy, I could probably take in a scrap. But that blonde who had the gun to you, she would have shot you, no problem. She is hardcore. And then at the end of that season, they're the two that go to rescue Jin, Bernard, and Saeed before Hurley shows up. They get all this great chemistry. And LaFleur, you're right, really sets a great tone and informs future viewers. I just wish Juliet was able to live, because I love her so much.
I think she had the same thing Mr. Echo had. I don't think she wanted to be on the show anymore.
She got a really great what was it? Was it V she was starring in?
Oh yeah. I think that was her.
Yeah, and she was like, if I could have done both of them at the same time, I would have. But my agent told me, if you don't take V, which is like 3 times the amount of exposure and money as you're getting paid for Lost, I have to drop you as a client, because that is not, like, that's terrible business. And she said, I also don't love living in Hawaii. So, which I love the Hawaii stories from like the cast afterwards. Because have you ever heard about what is the actor that plays Boone? What's his name?
Ian Somerhalder or something?
Ian Somerhalder. That's right. Do you know the story about his Hawaii house?
No.
So he was really excited. He was like, got this show, and this was like pre-True Blood. So he's still a nobody, right? Like, or not True Blood, Vampire Diaries? Was that the one he was on? He was on one of the vampire shows.
He was on Vampire Diaries.
Yeah. I think it was Vampire Diaries. He was like, I'm really excited about this. I'm still young. I'm like 22, 23 years old. I'm excited to do this, be on a big network, part of this amazing ensemble, biggest pilot ever. It was amazing. Whoa. And
I think I see where this is going.
He bought a house in Hawaii, and the day he signed and was like locked into the lease, Damon Lindelof pulled him aside and said, so we're going to kill your character.
Oh.
And he was like, Damon, you could not have had worse timing. And that's why Boone's one of those popular like Vision characters who shows up for people because they felt bad because he now had this house in Hawaii. Yeah,
I don't want to have him bad for him because it is Hawaii, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's always funny when you hear stuff like that, or like that is the thing also about Lost, that just watching the show Lost, you only get, there's so much extra fun stuff when you know like the behind the scenes like fun stuff that went on. Like have you ever heard about like who they originally wanted for Jack?
No, I don't.
You don't know this?
No.
Oh my god, Ben. So originally Jack was not supposed to be the main character of the show. Jack was going to die in part 1 of the pilot. So you know how the pilot is broken into 2 parts, and the first part ends with Kate counting in the trees, and then part 2 starts, and Greg Grunberg, the pilot, his body falls from the tree and scares her.
Yeah.
That was going to be Jack's body, and then Kate was going to be the main character of the show going forward. Because the person they wanted to get for Jack was not going to be able to commit for the long haul. This was a person, a famous actor who at the time, whose star had faded, who when I say the name, you're going to say, how could they have got this person? But the original offer for Jack, and who accepted but then pulled out, was Michael Keaton.
Holy fuck.
Michael Keaton was originally going to be Jack and die in the first half of the pilot.
Okay.
So that Kate could be the hero.
So we could have gotten half of the two-parter with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I think they made the right choice.
It wasn't their choice. It was Michael Keaton said, I want out. And then they got Matthew Fox to come in, and he was coming hot off Party of Five, which was big. And Evangeline Lilly, like, she's just some, at that point, relatively unknown Canadian actress. So are you really going to put all that Disney money on Evangeline Lilly? No, you're not. So you put it on Matthew Fox, and now Jack is the main character and not Kate. And that's why the first set of flashbacks we get are from Kate's perspective, because the pilot was written with her as the lead of the show.
Huh. No, I mean, thinking of Michael Keaton in the whole show.
Do you know who they also originally had approached to play John Locke?
I think I hear this, but I forget.
Forrest Whitaker.
Really?
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker was who they originally wanted. Forrest Whitaker, I assume he must be cheap if they were going to try in the early 2000s, if they were going to try to get him for Lost. But he said no, and we got TOQ. So I love that. I love John Locke, and I love Terry O'Quinn as Locke in the show. But originally, there is an alternate universe where the season 1, episode 1 of Lost stars Michael Keaton and Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, yeah. I want to see that half planet because I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. He's my favorite Batman.
Yeah, and he was almost killed off in the pilot episode of your favorite show. Well, that's also why season 1 has, aside from Jack, Kate has the most flashbacks in season 1, and Hurley doesn't get one until way into the season. It's because they had to add a bunch of Jack flashbacks because they didn't expect him to be alive.
God, wow. Yeah, okay, let me ask you this. Do you have a favorite flashback from, well, I'm not going to say from everybody, or say from a free, from Jack, from Locke, from Sawyer, and from Kate.
So just from those four?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's Oh man, you really. I think the episode. It's the it's the first Jack Flash. I think it might be Man of Science, Man of Faith, the season 2 premiere. I think is Jack where he's operating on Sarah for the first time, and he meets Desmond at the stadium running. Seeing another life, brother. I think that might be my favorite set of Jack flashbacks. I actually, maybe a hot take. I think Kate is a great character in other people's episodes. I don't think there's a lot of great Kate-centric episodes.
I have one that I love. It's the one with Nathan Fillion.
I do, Ben? Oh, come on. Ben, you're letting Castle and Firefly blind you, my dude.
I think that's it. Yeah, I'm only a big Fillion fan, so.
Yeah, and he is great in that. He is fantastic in that episode. I love Nathan Fillion. He might be one of my favorite, one-off flashback characters.
Yeah, I always forget he's in the show. Every time I come across IU, I get a big smile oh yeah, Nathan Fillion in this.
See, I have the opposite problem, where I assume he's in a lot more of the show than he is. So when Ana Lucia gets introduced, who, by the way, insane that they got Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, okay. Now, damn, I don't know if it was her or if it was Libby or if it was someone else. Somebody got a DUI, and that's why they had to leave the show.
Okay, so that is often cited as the reason that Michelle Rodriguez got kicked off Lost. But when you listen to interviews from the creators at the time, and even Michelle Rodriguez at the time, they were all saying, we really want this character to be in it. We want them to be great, but we only want her for one season. And Michelle was like, that's fine. That's fine. I'll go back to the Fast and Furious movies.
Were she already doing them?
Dude, they were on Fast 4 at this time.
Oh, shit. Wow.
No, so I think because the first Fast and Furious movie, I think, comes out in 99.
Maybe 2000.
Maybe 2001, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So by this point, I think they're in Tokyo Drift. So she's about to come back and die and then be gone and then come back again. But I believe that it was. But I always think that to the Nathan Fillion thing, and maybe it's just like Castle, and he's got the show The Rookie now. I always in my head am like, oh yeah, and Nathan Fillion's her cop partner, and then he's not, and I always get upset.
No, his cop partner is one of those guys who has that face, you've seen him before, but you can't remember where.
Yeah, wasn't he Abraham in The Walking Dead?
I never watched.
Okay, you know what? Now that I think about it, I don't think that's true. I think I'm just being ginger racist. But, what about you, Ben? Do you have a favorite flashback from those four?
I forget those four. Yeah. It's so hard to watch. I have to say, the first Locke's father episode with McKinney. Even that on the first Lock episode.
Oh my god.
Nobody, don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah. You know, again, a fun behind the scenes thing. They were halfway through filming that before they said he's in a wheelchair.
Really?
Yeah, they had they were like, we know there's something about Locke. Because like they kind of get to this in a weird roundabout way, but when they originally envisioned Locke, he was a lot darker and a lot more evil. Like you kind of see that in the pilot where the only shots of him are him like ominously staring at people. And then he gets the knives and he's like, ooh, wow, a bad guy. But sorry, but it was about halfway through filming, they were like, what if in the flashbacks he's always sitting and then we reveal he's in a wheelchair? And they were like, that's genius. So they were like halfway through filming before they figured that out. And when he's shouting, don't tell me what I can't do, as he's trying to wheel after the Sydney, the walkabout bus. And then it just slow fades into his face as he's watching his wheelchair burn. It's like, oh.
There's somebody else we need to bring up. Talk about running out of things for a character to do. Michael.
Oh my god. Talk about a character getting screwed. Michael, the character of Michael, he was the first one to show up and say, guys, we should build a raft. Like, what do we do? We're playing golf? We should be trying to leave. But like, he does some terrible shit. But it all stems from the fact that his character has a son. And that son goes through puberty. He's so tall when they take him off island. Or like when in the Meet Kevin Johnson episode, when Michael like goes to the house to be like, I want to talk to my son, mom, and they pan up, and it's just a still picture of Walt because he's so old now. Or when Locke's shot and Walt's ghost comes in, it's like, you have to come back with us, John. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? But that him 2 for the road, where he shoots Anna and then just shoots Libby. Heartbreaking and surprising every time.
Yep. You know, okay, something I had to season 6. When they finally have the kids on the beach, Julie and Libby, you can't help but get teary-eyed because they finally get to have their first date.
Yeah. Wow. That is teary. Because Libby was always one of those characters who I always wish they had done more with, because I was always so intrigued by her. The fact that she was in the asylum with, she was in the home with Hurley, but then also she's the one who gave the boat to Desmond so he could get to the island. And like, there's like a weird universe where like she's working for Jacob, kind of like we see people, like, I know it's not true, but like she's doing all these things and she's in all these people's lives that I'm like, I wanted just a little bit more with you. But even so, you just feel so good for Hurley in season 6 when they get their first date and they get to kiss. Also, do not go to Saeed's hookup tent. Someone will die. Okay? Like Saeed and Shannon go there, same episode, Boone dies. Hurley and Libby are like, we're gonna go there, and then Libby's dead. Do not go to Saeed's hookup tent.
I was going to say, in the parallel universe, I like to think Julie and Libby run the island together. It means Julie coming too, and not Ben.
So I really like Hurley and Ben working together because I think it shows how well those two have grown. And it's kind of fucked up that Ben doesn't get to go into the church at the end because I'm like, some people have done some way worse stuff than this guy, and he doesn't get to go into the church.
Okay. Who in that church did worse stuff than Ben?
Like arguably Saeed. Jin
Okay.
is literally a hitman.
Okay.
Lost. Like Locke is just a regular dude, but he does go like all Colonel Kurtz on people. Like we get to see the one universe where when Miles is kidnapped by Locke, at the end of that episode, Locke puts a grenade in Miles's mouth and pulls the pin. 99% of the time, Miles panics and his head's gone. But we live in we get to watch the 1% where his jaw is strong and Locke comes back hours later. And it's like, boop, see, was that so hard? And to Miles, I would have said, yes, that was very hard. So, like, that was fucked up what he did there. He killed Naomi for no reason and kept them on the island. Like, not for no reason, like he had his reasons. But
I know, you're right. You're
like
right.
Michael gets to move on event in like the New Man in Charge, like whatever the Lost sequel would have been. Michael gets to move on. So it's like, this guy, Ben, he did his time.
Yeah, he should have been there. Yeah. But, yeah. Do you think Desmond is the best haunted character in the show? No. I mean, he had flaws. They all did.
Mm.
But I think he had the fewest flaws. Or am I wrong about that?
I think Desmond is a classic he's my favorite character on the show. But he is a classic overcommitter where he is 100% on everything he's doing. Whether that's Penny, I think you're probably right where he is the most like good-hearted character on the show, except for maybe Hurley. Because he really always puts, sometimes not by his choice, in season 6 where Charles Whitmore drugs him and brings him back to the island.
Yeah.
Or where he's like, I just kept taking my boat out and I just kept going around. We're in a snow globe. I just can't get back, brother. Why am I the Beatles now? This isn't a Desmond voice at all. But like, yeah, he's always doing the right thing, even though sometimes it wasn't by his choice. I always liked when the cat creators would talk about the characters like a football team, where they would say Jack is our quarterback, but we got Desmond and we realized this is the greatest running back we have. Like, this is the guy who you hand the ball to in time of need. And you see that where like he gets a lot of like seminal flashbacks because of Walt leaving and Mr. Echo dying. Desmond gets all these cool powers that were supposed to go to them. So he gets such amazing storylines that Desmond just shines through the entire time.
And one of his episodes might be the best episode of the show with The Constant.
Oh, The Constant is easily even though I don't watch Lost every year, every Christmas I watch The Constant, and every Christmas I cry. Because just when they're going back and forth, he's like, I'll call you, Ben, on this day, on December 23rd, 2004. I'll call you. And then she's like, I'll do it. I love you. And then she does. I'm crying the entire time. And it's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that The Constant is revered as like one of the best episodes of the show, when Lost is at its best, I feel, when it's utilizing its entire ensemble.
Yeah.
But that episode very much is just Saeed and Desmond on a boat. And then sometimes we talk to Daniel Faraday. And then Jack's in there being like, I don't understand science. I only know spines. My appendix is about to burst.
Now let me ask you this. I just thought of that phone call Desmond makes to Penny. Is that what sends you on a search for the island?
I don't think it's what sends her. I think it's more her searching for the island and the weird, like, Scandinavian Antarctic base thing. That's never made a lot of sense to me, so I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. But I think it's probably just he goes missing right after, like, professing all this love and stuff and breaking up with her, and then he goes missing for how long was he gone? Like 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years. Everything happened in a 3-year increment on the show if you pay attention.
Yeah. They just spends 3 years living with Mr. Krabs.
Yeah. I always forget that Mr. Krabs.
I love, just speaking of Clancy Brown there, that's just something I do love about the show, is how much you think everyone is so desperate. But then you see people's supporting characters show up in each other's flashbacks.
Right.
Like Charlie saves Nadia from getting mugged. Kate's dad is the one who like originally gets Saeed on board for torturing his own people before Mr. Krabs steps in. And then Mr. Krabs is in the hatch. And then like they've always or like what's Sawyer's baby mama's name? Cassidy, thank you.
Yeah.
I could pull Clementine, his kid, but I could not pull Cassidy. Or like Cassidy showing up in Kate's flashback. It's like these people have all been in each other's lives in subtle way, with the exception of like Jin and Sun, but like they were on a different continent, so like that doesn't really count. But
how about Sawyer's parents being killed by Lock Snap? Indirectly.
Sorry?
Sawyer's
oh parents. Yes. That, oh my god, that's all. The Brig is another one of my favorite episodes. Man, just where a little hot for heaven, isn't it? Is something I have said in too many situations where people are like, man, I think things are gonna be okay, and I'm just like, oof, a little hot for heaven, isn't it? Just because like this is hell, guys. This is hell.
Yeah.
But then just like the sadness that that Sawyer has when he kills Anthony Cooper, right after the anger of when he's ripping the letter up, is just hard. And then that just like jump starts Sawyer's character development. Because after he goes out to the woods, he throws up, and then he's like, all right, time to start my character arc.
And that had a great moment. And I love the moment in season 5. Penn goes to Desmond and Penny's boat to kill Penny or the kid, I forget which one. And then Desmond just starts beating up Penn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, That was one of the interesting things about season 5, where it had like that non-linear storytelling. So we had like seen Ben all fucked up already. So we're like, the entire time we're like, who did that to you, Ben? You got on a Jira all fucked up, and we've seen the phone call. But like, who did that? And then you see that Desmond did it, and you're like, oh fuck. I also love the funny thing that Penny and Desmond's baby is not baby, it's like a 5-year-old at the end of the show, is named Charlie after.
Yeah.
But it's so funny when you think about it for 2 seconds, because what's Penny's dad's name?
Yeah.
It's Charles.
Yeah.
So he dies, obviously, before ever getting to meet his grandson. And you know what? Good for him. He was a piece of shit. He deserved it. But he dies. But if they had ever met, it would have been like, and Dad, this is your grandson, Charlie. Oh, you named him after me, did you? No, we did not. Actually, we're going to change his name now because we don't like you very much.
What a great villain Whitmore, isn't he?
He's a great villain. I wish he had been more involved earlier, but like, he is a tremendous bad guy, always 2 steps ahead. And then getting to find out that not only is he a shitbag to Desmond, but he was Ben's boss before Ben did a coup and kicked him out. Like, that reveal was just like, because I think it's in season 4. No, it's in season 5 with the time travel, where Sawyer almost kills Charles, and then he comes into camp and is complaining, and Richard's like, Whitmore, stop. And Locke's like, wait, Charles Whitmore? It's like, yeah. Oh, Richard, by the way, what a fantastic character that we haven't talked about at all. I always loved the immortal vampire man.
Yeah.
Which is what I was convinced he was for the longest time. I was like, this man's a vampire. That's why he doesn't age.
Still not 100% clear on what stopped him from aging.
Jacob was like, and he gave him the magic juice. He gave him like super candidacy, where I've always thought of, and I'm sure this is not unintentional, because obviously there's a big pull from Buddhism in Lost with like the whole Dharma initiative and stuff like that, where Jacob and Richard kind of work as like the Dolly and Panchen Lama, where when one dies, the other one seeks them out in their reincarnated form. So you can't ever have them both dead at the same time. And that's why when you get that great scene where Richard pulls out a gray hair and is like, I think this means I want to live now, because Jack's a candidate. Sorry, because Jack has become Jacob. So now Jacob's magic no longer applies.
I also love that scene in season 6. Richard trying to kill himself with a dynamite.
Where they're just watching that fuse burn. And Jack's like, I just came from a lighthouse with my name on it. And I don't think I'm going to die here, Richard. But if I'm wrong, oh, here we go. And Richard's like, are you fucking nuts?
Talk about Michael Keaton. That's him saying, you
want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That would have been great, because I think, because just to go back to the Michael Keaton thing, there is a chance that Michael Keaton dies in the first episode of Lost, right?
Yeah.
Kate is now the protagonist, so she gets a lot of the Jack story, and Sawyer's probably the Kate in this situation, who's always like following Kate around. It's like, you're going to tell me not to come, but I'm going to come anyways, Kate. But there's a chance that Michael Keaton, 2004, still not doing much in his career. you know, he hasn't had like the other guys or Birdman or anything yet to really kickstart him back in. There's a chance that Michael Keaton becomes kind of the Christian shepherd to Kate, where it's just always Michael Keaton showing up to Evangeline Lilly being like, oof, shouldn't be doing that. Oh man, no, don't do that. Fucking go find the water. Chase me to find some water. Run off a cliff, why don't you?
Yeah. No, I want to see the show. I'm sorry. I want to see Keaton online.
Hey man, in the multiverse somewhere, there's a version where Michael Keaton was on Lost in the first episode.
We were getting the multiverse of madness in Doctor Strange, and they were more about ABC. Maybe, I don't know. We should why not? Any final thoughts on Lost before we sign off here?
I could have gone for another 6 hours. I love talking about Lost. I didn't even feel. I looked up at the timer just now. I was like, "Oh shit, it's been an hour. We haven't talked about anything yet. Oh my god, we didn't talk about the flashbacks. We didn't talk about Mr. Echo. We didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about the terrible CGI shark. Like Lost. Ben, think about that. Think about the raft, and think about season 2.
Okay, yeah.
Or where they lost how they lost the puppet for the bear. So it was just for one of the scenes where they needed a polar bear, it was just a big guy in a polar bear costume. And that's why it looks like shit. Because it's just a guy going, rawr, rawr. Because they lost the puppet.
We're going down to your part 2 here. I gotta know about that damn puppet.
Hey man, I got lots of behind the scenes. I deep dived on Lost behind the scenes. So no closing thoughts except I love Lost, and anytime you want to have me back to talk about Lost, I will be here. Because I just like, aside from talking Lost, I just like hanging out with you, Ben.
Right back at you, my man. Right back at you. Well, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Leaves Me Alone on Twitter, but that's a bad follow, so don't follow there. Go over to Group of the North on Twitter. That is the official Northern Entertainment Group Twitter handle. Subscribe to Northern Entertainment Group. We have lots of shows coming out, lots of new shows coming up in the near future, and oh my god, you are not going to want to miss what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I know. I'm here kind of on that channel, but
also subscribe to Ben's channel if you haven't already. If you got through an hour of me talking about Lost, you've definitely subscribed, or you're angrily sending me death threats right now. It's one or the other. So if you don't want to write death threats to me, make sure you subscribe.
Well, you forget. Game of Thrones is a thing now, so nobody's bitching about Lost anymore.
Oh boy, it's true. When the sequel comes out, when the Lost sequel, because we're due for a Lost reboot any day now.
You know, I wouldn't hate one. I wouldn't hate one. Only returning characters, Ben and Hurley, like in a whole new cast of characters. Same island, that's no.
See, I would rather go backwards than have like no cast back. Except for, I guess you need to have Jacob and Rick. I guess you need to have Oh God, no! Go to the future. The island's cyberpunk now. It's a cyber island in space.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Instead of the smoke monster, it's whatever Megatron was in the 4th Transformers movie.
I didn't have to bring up those movies. Those so mad.
I think we found a Transformer.
Oh my god. What was Mark Robert thinking?
Oh, I think I found a Transformer here. I don't do a good Mark Wahlberg. Never mind. Ben, where can people find you?
You can find me at @myTwitterPan_Rainy. You can find me right here on the Multiverse of Kingdom YouTube channel every Monday on Deep Dive, every Wednesday on Jedi Council, Jedi Academy, every Sunday on what? I'm bringing it back. The Monday already came on after it came back. So check me out. I'm on Rewind.tape on the Northern Entertainment Group and Northern Countdown. So that's it. I think that's everything, right? Yeah.
I don't know. It's your plugs.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, thank you for coming back and thank you for listening. Thank you for getting lost with us. What?
I got one final thing. Ben, ask me if we should do another Lost podcast.
Should we do another Lost podcast?
We have to go back and podcast about Lost. End the show.
See you in another life, brother.
Ah, he said the line!